Hi everyone. Today we're going to have a very interesting session and I'm going to talk about a famous legal personality, a famous Indian who has been inspiring many people since the past few years, and at the same time he's a personal hero of mine, a personal inspiration of mine, and I hope by looking at his life, looking at his journey, you also get a lot of inspiration to number one, work hard towards your CLAT preparation. Number two, continue to do good even when you get a national university. And number three, after your graduation, also you continue to work hard towards your bright legal career so that one day, you might get a chance to be somebody like him. Even if we all can be just, 50% or 10% like him, we would become great people in our lives and careers. So, any guesses who am I talking about? Well, this person is going to be one of the highest, or this person is going to assume one of the highest legal, posts in India in the coming few days. And hopefully, by the 9th of November, this person is going to be the highest legal authority in the country. So I hope this is giving you some hint, guys. I am talking about none other than Honorable Justice Dhananjay Yashwant Chandrachud, popularly known as D.Y. Chandrachud, and his journey has been a very inspiring journey, and how from a very young age he has had a huge impact on the people around him, and at the same time from a very young age he has been quite like a shining star. Everyone could see from the very beginning of his career that this boy is going to do something good, and so here we have him as a future Chief Justice of India. And I mean, as I speak, in the next few days he's just going to be coronated as the Chief Justice of India. And yeah, so but obviously you must be wondering कि ये बनते कैसे हैं, how does it happen, how do you become the Chief Justice of India, and is there an examination for it, or is there some other kind of experience that you need, and ये कैसे select होते हैं, and initially all of them are lawyers only. Okay, so how does a lawyer become a judge? इन्होंने तो जुडिशरी का एग्जाम भी नहीं दिया होता, तो फिर ये कैसे होता है? सो एसेंशली हम जब जस्टिस डी वाई चंद्रचूड़ की जर्नी समझेंगे तो एसेंशली ये सारी चीज़ें भी आपको समझ आएंगी. तो बिफोर फर्दर अड्यू, I'm gonna start with this very inspiring journey that we're going to talk about today. So, if we talk about his early life, he was born in Bombay, and in Mumbai only he completed his schooling and everything. However, then he moved to Delhi, obviously because his father was also a Supreme Court judge, and later his father also become the Chief Justice of India. So obviously when you have a legal background in the family, it does impact you, and it is always a very supportive feeling to have somebody from the same legal background in the family. And I'm sure it is a little helpful also, like a lot of people and you also know what to do next. So वो जो career guidance चाहिए होता है वो थोड़ा मिल जाता है when you have somebody from the same field in your family. But other than that, obviously आपकी खुद की मेहनत ultimately ज़रूरी होती है, and आपका खुद का hard work, dedication, intelligence सबसे ज़्यादा important होता है. Somebody in your family can always guide you, but they cannot make you into something, and that is where your individual personality and role comes into play. So obviously Justice Chandrachud became what he became because he did a lot of hard work. And as you will be able to see here also that after his BA that he completed from St. Stephen's College in New Delhi, he did his LLB again from Delhi University, and CLC Delhi is again a very prestigious place, especially in the 1980s and all. अगर आप DU से law कर रहे हो तो that was considered very prestigious. And then you see this is where he starts shining, that he number one, getting an admission in Harvard Law is a very big deal. It's very difficult. But in the year 1983, just after his graduation, he was able to get an admission in Harvard Law School. So number one, you see how much of hard work, dedication, he must have had good grades, and he must have had an amazing application, right? And that is why he got selected in Harvard. Then he wasn't just selected in Harvard, he also got a prestigious scholarship to go and study at Harvard. So this further tells you that from a very early age he was very cautious about, his education. He was very careful about the hard work and dedication he was putting into making a career out of himself, out of his life. So he did his LLM, and also he did his doctoral in juridical sciences from Harvard. Now once he graduated from Harvard, he also worked at a very very reputed international legal firm. Matlab, if you know anything about Sullivan and Cromwell, you will get an idea how difficult it is to to get a job from this particular firm. And especially back then, in the 1980s 85s, it was again, as an Indian working in the US or studying in the US, it gets a lot more difficult for you to get access to these amazing, or to these really superior law firms and everything. So yes, so Sullivan and Cromwell has worked with a lot of international organizations. They do a lot of business law, and they practice a lot of international business law as well. And among many many big deals, and things like Panama Canal and everything else, Panama Papers, they're all linked with a lot of famous cases and a lot of famous institutions back then, and even now they continue to do that. So he worked there for a few years, and after that he left it and came back to India. Now when he came back to India, he obviously started practicing in the Supreme Court and in the Bombay High Court. So this is where his litigation journey starts. So after his job, after completing that, somewhere around the late 1980s, he came back to India and he started practicing in the Supreme Court and the Bombay High Court. And that is when he actually started shining. He started getting a lot of work, did a lot of pro bono cases as well. And that is when, after looking at the performance that he delivered and the quality of cases and the knowledge, in the year 1998 he was designated a senior advocate by the Bombay High Court. So how do you become a senior advocate? Let's just talk about the process a little bit. So number one, you get a law degree. You, me, everyone, once we get a law degree, we register as advocates in the Bar Council, and after registering in the Bar Council, you are eligible to practice in the court. Once you start practicing in the court, now getting a senior designation can happen anytime. It can happen after 10 years of your practice, it can happen after 20 years of your practice, but it totally depends on your individual talent, the contacts, as well as the amount of hard work and knowledge of law that you have shown in the cases. So there is a committee in the High Court, and there is a committee in the Supreme Court also. Supreme Court can also designate somebody as a senior advocate, but in this case, since it was done by the Bombay High Court, so all the high courts in the country have a committee, and the committee is obviously made up of the judges, the Chief Justice of the High Court and the other senior judges. And then they decide, okay, so there are, let's say, 500 lawyers working in the Bombay High Court. Out of them, which all have done tremendous work in the past few years, and who all have a very clean record, and who all of them are very uncorrupted, intelligent lawyers. And then they decide, okay, which of them should be recommended as a senior advocate in the court. So in 1998, after working in some years in the High Court and getting a good reputation, and showing that, okay, I have intelligence and I have knowledge, then finally the High Court gave him the status of the senior advocate. So senior advocate is a very big thing in the High Court if you get that status. Okay, so in 1998 he got the status of the senior advocate, and then in the same year he also became the additional Solicitor General of India. So this is another crowning achievement. Like, it is a very very big thing to become Solicitor General or Additional Solicitor General of India. And basically you become the government's advocate, and you represent the government, you advise the government on a lot of different matters. So we're talking about this in the year 1998. And then he continued to serve as the Additional Solicitor General for another year or two, and then finally he became a judge. So how did he become a judge? Again, the Supreme Court, the High Court, they keep looking at the performance of a person, okay? And if somebody is a senior advocate, they keep looking at the performance of that senior advocate, how he's conducting himself, in what manner, what types of cases the person is handling, how much knowledge and expertise of law do they have. And then there is a committee, like your collegium, Supreme Court collegium, High Court committees, and then they recommend different lawyers to be elevated to directly become judges of the High Court. So he was a judge of the Bombay High Court from the year 2000 till he was transferred to the Allahabad High Court, and when he was transferred to the Allahabad High Court, he was made the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. So now he's already become the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. Alright. Then he continued to serve as the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court till the year 2013, and then he became a judge in the Supreme Court. So after being a Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court, he was further elevated by the Supreme Court Collegium as a judge of the Supreme Court in the year 2013. And now we know, we're sitting in the year 2022 talking about him. So since 2013 till 2022, he has been serving as a judge of the Supreme Court of India. And in November 2022, he's to take over as the Chief Justice of India as well. So then in the year 2016, he was appointed as the judge of Supreme Court, and till 2022 has been serving as a judge of the Supreme Court, and in this year itself, in month of November, he will become the Chief Justice of India. So you see, it's a long journey. I mean, success doesn't come very easily, okay? You have to work for many years, and you have to show that you have the dedication, the hard work, the knowledge. The knowledge of law actually becomes very important. ये ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप चिल्ला चिल्ला के आर्ग्यू कर रहे हो, आप बहुत सारी केसेस जीत रहे हो. ये इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जब आप केसेस में आर्ग्यू कर रहे हो, चाहे आप उनको हारते हो, आपका नॉलेज ऑफ लॉ है, यू आर एबल टू इंटरप्रेट द स्टैट्यूट्स, यू आर एबल टू हेल्प द जजेस कम टू अ फाइनल कंक्लूजन as a lawyer. So those of you who are litigating, or those of you who are planning to litigate, आप एक अच्छा लॉयर बन के भी इतना इम्पैक्ट डाल सकते हो कि आपको खुद जजेस सिलेक्ट करें फ्यूचर जज बनने के लिए. सो दैट आई थिंक इज अ वेरी इंस्पायरिंग थिंग दैट वी कैन गेट फ्रॉम हिज जर्नी. That he did not give the judiciary examination, he did not become a judge in the lower judiciary, but he was a lawyer, he was practicing as a lawyer, and he directly became a judge of the Bombay High Court, then the Allahabad High Court, and then he was elevated to the Supreme Court. Now obviously he is also a visiting professor at a lot of international universities, and international and national universities, and he's given a lot of speeches and delivered lectures at UN High Commissions, or Human Rights Commission, Labor Organization, all of those institutions. So other work that he's done, but this is basically his legal journey. But now obviously, since we're talking about his legal journey, it would be unfair to not talk about his important judgments very quickly. So he's given a lot of landmark judgments, but one of the most important judgments is obviously the judgment on privacy. He was a part of the bench in the Justice Case Puttaswamy case, where it was finally pronounced by the court in the judgment that in India we do have a right to privacy. So this was a very important case, and he did come up with some important observations in this case. But however, a very side benefit, an additional benefit of his judgment in the privacy case was also the discussion on sexuality and homosexuality. In that discussion, the note that he slipped when it came to sexuality of a person being very closely associated to their privacy and their bodily privacy, that became one of the reasons that later led to is the section 377 decriminalization of section 377 in the Nas Foundation case. So the decriminalization of section 377 was somehow inspired by a lot of things that he was doing in the court even before that. And then ultimately, other than this judgment, there was one more additional judgment that got impacted out of the privacy case. So in case Puttaswamy case, he obviously he was also in the favor that yes, we have a right to privacy in India. So this was a benefit that we got from K.S. Puttaswamy case. Another benefit from the K.S. Puttaswamy case we got was that he said that homosexuality or your right to sexuality is also covered under right to privacy. So that also was something that we got out of this case. And this case also talked, expressly overruled the ADM Jabalpur case. If you have studied constitutional law and if you have studied writ petitions in your classes, you must know about the habeas corpus writ petition and the famous ADM Jabalpur case. And in this particular judgment, they expressly overruled the ADM Jabalpur case. So because ADM Jabalpur is always considered one of the black cases in the Indian history, or the black judgments. And the interesting thing is that in the ADM Jabalpur case, his father was the chief justice, and the son was able to overrule a bad decision given by his father many years ago, and correct it basically. So the K.S. Puttaswamy case, or the privacy case, was a very very important legacy that among other judges, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud was also a part of. And his observations and his discussions in this particular case are going to be very inspiring in the future also. So he's opened a pathway for privacy and discussion around privacy in India. Some other important cases were revolving around free speech and personal liberty. And another thing which is about gender justice is actually notable. We cannot miss this. So he was a part of the bench in the Sabrimala case, also in the decriminalization of adultery. So these two again had a very important impact on gender rights and gender equality in India. And the third thing that they did was gender equality in the armed forces, which happened in two ways. Number one, women were allowed to go into combat forces, combat forces, NDA, SANIC schools everywhere. And secondly, there are a lot of such posts in the army where only a short service commission was given to women, but men were eligible for a permanent commission also. So they also he was also a part of the bench that gave a judgment in favor of giving permanent commission to women that were eligible. So here, in the perspective of gender justice and gender equality, we've seen again huge contributions coming from Justice D.Y. Chandrachud's sides. Now, when we talk about legal contributions of a person, it is not necessary that always the judgments are to be counted. Sometimes the dissents. Okay, so what is a dissent? Dissent means when a judge does not agree with the final decision of the court. For example, there are 3 judges in a case, and 2 judges decide in favor of something, okay, and 1 judge is against it. So these 2 judges will, because voting or based on majority, so the final decision of the case will be based on the decision of these 2 judges. Whatever they agree on, that will be the final judgment of the case. But this 1 judge who does not agree with them can also write his opinion, can also describe, can also give reasons why he does not agree with them. And then this disagreement is called dissent. And in the world's legal history as well as in Indian legal history, we have seen some very very important judgments that have become judgments for the future. Very very important dissents, that have become judgments for the future. So आज से 20 साल पहले, 50 साल पहले किसी जज ने किसी केस में डिसेंट करा होता है, और कई सालों बाद वही डिसेंट फ्यूचर के केसेस के लिए एक पाथ दिखाता है, और जो चीज़ कुछ सालों पहले अलाउ नहीं थी वो चीज़ कई सालों बाद अलाउ हो जाती है बेस्ड ऑन अ डिसेंट. सो डिसेंट्स का इंपॉर्टेंस बहुत ज़्यादा होता है हमारी लीगल डेवलपमेंट में या किसी भी कंट्री के लीगल एवोल्यूशन में. तो यूजुअली सब बस जजमेंट पर ही फोकस करते रह जाते हैं, व्हाट वाज द मेजॉरिटी ओपिनियन, बट माइनॉरिटी ओपिनियन इन अ पर्टिकुलर केस इज आल्सो एक्सट्रीमली हेल्पफुल. नाउ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट माइनॉरिटी ओपिनियंस ऑफ जस्टिस D.Y. Chandrachud that I specifically want to focus on today was his minority opinion, or was his dissent in the Aadhaar case. So privacy case Puttaswamy was also very much connected to Aadhaar, because Aadhaar का कुछ भी फाइनल डिसीजन आने से पहले ये डिसाइड करना था कि डू वी इवन हैव अ राइट टू privacy or not, and therefore a separate bench was given his K.S. Puttaswamy case. बट यहाँ पे जस्टिस D.Y. Chandrachud का जो डिसेंट था वो काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर्स के अराउंड रिवॉल्व कर रहा था. तो ये बेसिकली डिवाइडेड हिज डिसेंट इन 4 इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर्स, दैट वाज सर्वेलेंस, प्रोपोर्शनैलिटी, मनी बिल, inequality and individual identity. Now I'm not going to tell you all of the details of it, but basically when other judges said Aadhaar is constitutional, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said Aadhaar is unconstitutional. And why did he say it? He said it because there were particular matters of law that he discussed, and he said why Aadhaar fails, why Aadhaar is not able to fulfill these criteria. And these were the 5 criteria that he divided it and discussed it. So you can obviously read the judgment, but more important part, if I have to quickly summarize it, was basically that this judgment has been considered again one of the most important dissents of recent times. And he was one of those judges who were able to take a stand against the government and talk about how Aadhaar violated the concept of money bill. And it is very, very intrusive, collecting a lot of data from the citizens, keeping that data and not being able to save it. Any third party can hack into the system and access all of the data that the citizens have. So on all of these topics he talked about, he also talked about proportionality, that what the government plans to achieve by doing Aadhaar, it can also do that by taking less information, by excluding the biometrics of the citizens. So the proportionality concept means you're using so much power, you're taking so much data, but is it even necessary? And then obviously how they are also excluding a class of citizens, they are creating inequality by not giving ration or by not giving benefits to the people that don't have Aadhaar, because the government is saying in the code that Aadhaar will not be compulsory, but at the same time people who don't have Aadhaar are not getting the benefits of a lot of schemes also. So therefore on all of these multiple factors, Justice G.Y. Chandrachud gave his dissent. And you can read the dissent once you go to college. If you're still preparing for CLAT, you don't have to read the dissent, but once you go to college it will be a very interesting read for you. If you're interested in legal dissents, you can read this. But yeah, so coming back to the story, so the story is about this boy who obviously was from a family of judges, lawyers, but he also worked hard. He also did his own part, studied in good colleges, made sure that he got admitted into top colleges in the world. And I think this is going to be very inspiring for CLAT aspirants, because you also can, there are just a few months left in your CLAT 23 examination and approximately 1 year left in CLAT 24 examination. You also have time, work hard, make sure that you get into a top 5 or top 10 national university, and once you get into a good college you get the platform to work forward towards your goal. So I hope this was a very inspiring life story for you, the story of Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. I'll come back with other inspiring lawyers and inspiring legal personalities. Till then, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay tuned.